Okay, let's unpack this. If you are tuning in today, you've shared a fascinating stack of sources with us that moves far beyond the basics of Texas Hold'em.
Hmm.
We're definitely not here for Poker 101, calculating pot odds or, running sims.
Right.
We are diving straight into the high-level stuff, the application of human psychology, right there at the felt.
Yeah, the real mind games.
Our mission today is pretty precise. We're moving beyond just the math to master the nonverbal game.
That's the goal.
This deep dive is all about recognizing and synthesizing poker body language, those subtle physical cues, the tells that can turn a technically solid player into, well, a dominant force.
Someone truly unreadable, or rather someone who can read everyone else.
Exactly. Poker is fundamentally a game of information, right? Information arbitrage. And these physical tells, they're often the most immediate, exploitable info you can get.
And if we want to talk about a true competitive edge, this is really where it lives, isn't it? A
Yeah.
strong, technical game, that's table stakes. You need that to play well.
Sure, the foundation.
But the ability to read opponents, that's what defines the greats. It really is.
So it's more than just catching bluffs.
Oh, absolutely. What's fascinating here is that reading tells doesn't just help you, avoid getting bluffed. It fundamentally changes the psychological landscape of the entire game.
Oh, so.
Well, that insight gives you a kind of psychological leverage. It lets you steer the action, maybe through subtle intimidation, maybe through just calculated passivity.
Ah, okay. So you're controlling the table dynamic more.
Precisely. When the mathematical edges are thin, and they often are, especially deep in tournaments, well, combining that strong technical skill with razor-sharp observation, that's where many seasoned pros find their edge, their enduring success.
Okay, so we need to know where to focus, where to point that laser vision. Let's start with the control center then.
Yeah.
The face. If someone's trying to project confidence or maybe calm, their face is working overtime.
Right. It is, absolutely. And that effort, that very work itself, can be a tell. The face is usually the most revealing area, but we have to look deeper than just, a simple frown or a smile. We really need to talk about micro expressions.
Right. I find this concept crucial, but it often gets defined kind of superficially. What exactly are we looking for,
Yeah.
and how fast are they? Really fast.
We're looking for these fleeting, totally involuntary glimpses of genuine emotion. We're talking less than half a second.
Wow, half a second.
You literally have the blink of an eye to catch them. So if you see a micro flicker of genuine fear or maybe stress, just as an opponent shoves a huge pile of chips forward, that often indicates they're pulling off a major bluff. Their body knows they're taking a massive risk, even if their face tries to hide it.
Okay, and conversely.
Conversely, a quick flicker of pure relief after seeing the flop, that might signal they just hit a card they desperately needed, maybe didn't expect. The key is, these aren't intentional. They're the real signal leaking out before the conscious brain can clamp down.
Okay, so knowing that makes the forced conscious expressions maybe a bit easier to read then, because you see the effort.
Exactly. Look for the effort. A forced smile. Often a bluff. They're trying way too hard to look relaxed when underneath their body might be screaming tension. But sustained tension is just as important. Look for tension around the eyes, that specific tiny squint or maybe tightness in the mouth. That's a classic sign of internal worry or discomfort with the hand they're playing.
So if the face might be lying or trying to, we move down to the eyes. What are the signals there? Confidence, deception, how someone looks at the table.
Yeah, eye movements can reveal a lot about confidence in planning, but you always need to read the context.
Whoa.
Avoiding eye contact, for instance, usually signals weakness or hesitation. They don't want to engage, don't want to commit. But wait, there's nuance here. Like staring at an opponent.
Right. Okay, because lots of people assume staring is just pure confidence.
Yeah.
And power play.
Yeah.
But could staring too hard actually be a tell of weakness? Like they're overcompensating?
That's the critical distinction you need to make. Yes, it can be a power play, but often that intense, fixed gaze, it's intentional acting. The truly confident player is often more relaxed, doesn't feel the need to intimidate, so that overly intense stare, often deployed by someone trying to mask weakness by appearing, impenetrable.
Interesting. So what's a more reliable eye tell then?
A more reliable one, often linked directly to strategy, is the chip glance.
Okay, when they look back and forth between their cards and their chip stack.
Precisely. Now, that isn't weakness. That usually indicates careful calculation, strategic planning. They're mentally working out the cost, the stack depth, the risk versus reward before they commit. That shows real engagement and intent.
Fascinating. Okay, so face and eyes are the control center,
Hmm.
but the hands, they often betray that immediate subconscious response, don't they? So
Yep.
let's talk about shifting focus downward. What are those subtle but critical signals in hands and gestures?
Hands are incredibly expressive, and they're really difficult to control consciously, especially under pressure. Fidgeting or restless hands often signal nervousness, sure, but the type of fidgeting matters.
How so?
Is it their usual rhythmic, maybe habitual chip shuffling? That's just their baseline. Or is it suddenly erratic, jerky, shaky? That change, the erratic behavior, that's the potential tell.
Got it. What about covering the face?
If someone covers their mouth or nose, even briefly, they're often literally subconsciously trying to suppress or hide something, information. It's a pretty strong indicator of a bluff or maybe deep indecision.
And chip handling. You mentioned it briefly, but it feels like a subconscious measure of their control or confidence.
Absolutely. Think about the way a confident player handles making a bet. Often you see confident structured stacking. They move the chips decisively, cleanly.
Okay.
Now contrast that with someone who's maybe sloppy or rushed or kind of erratic in how they stack their bet.
Right. So let's paint a picture. A player makes a big river bet. The stack they push out is a little messy, maybe disorganized, but then they immediately follow that up by, say, interlocking their fingers tightly on the table like they're anchoring themselves.
Yeah.
What are we seeing there?
You're seeing synthesized uncertainty, most likely. The sloppy bet suggests that subconscious discomfort with the action that's the initial tell, and the interlocking hands. That's often a secondary tell, a physical attempt to regain control, to stabilize an emotional reaction. The combination is so much more powerful than just the sloppy chips alone.
Okay, that's where it gets really interesting, seeing the pieces fit together. So we need to look bigger picture too. Posture, overall movement.
Exactly. Posture gives us clues to their general mindset. Leaning forward usually shows interest or assertiveness, right? They're ready to engage. But here's the nuance. Watch for players who might be consciously overplaying that move, maybe leaning in really aggressively to try and mask genuine indecision.
Ah, another potential act.
Could be. Conversely, leaning back can indicate genuine confidence and comfort. Or it can be an attempt to feign disinterest, to mask weakness. Again, context and baseline are key.
And the old classic, crossed arms, still relevant.
Still relevant, yeah. Often signals a defensive or closed-off posture, uncertainty. But the crucial synthesis here, like you said, is seeing 3 or 4 of these different cues line up.
Okay, give me an example.
Well, if someone has that tight mouth we talked about, and they're leaning aggressively forward, and they keep glancing quickly at their chip stack, that whole combination suggests maybe intentionality, discomfort, and strategic calculation all happening at once. The accuracy of your read just jumps exponentially when the tells stack up like that.
Okay, so now we know what to watch for. The face, eyes, hands, posture, the whole package. The next big step is figuring out how to turn spotting these isolated moments into a repeatable, useful skill. We need like practical training methods.
Right. And it all starts with what I call the observation principle. You absolutely must establish a baseline for each player. You just cannot rush to judgment based on a single action.
So patience is key.
Immense patience. You need to observe their behavior across multiple hands, winning hands, losing hands, hands they fold quickly, hands where they bluff. You're looking for patterns in their timing, their gestures, their expressions, all relative to their normal behavior. What happens when they're genuinely relieved? What's their reaction when they're genuinely confused or frustrated?
That sounds like we need a dedicated environment for this kind of intense staring practice, maybe without the pressure of huge losses screwing up our own focus.
Exactly. Low-stakes games are the perfect training laboratory for this. They involve minimal financial risk, usually, which means you can relax and focus almost entirely on observation, not just on your own cards or the pot size. Use these games specifically to build confidence in spotting those subtle deviations from each opponent's bluff line.
I imagine this is the kind of skill that demands serious documentation, not just relying on gut feeling or memory. You can't just trust you'll remember who did what when, right?
You absolutely cannot trust memory alone, especially over a long session. Turning those casual observations into valuable, actionable insights, that requires dedicated note-taking. And don't just write down player X fidgets. That's useless.
So be specific.
You need to categorize your notes. Think baseline behavior versus change of state tells.
Okay, can you give us an example of what a valuable note might look like?
Sure, a valuable note would be something like, player 3. When raising preflop, usually takes about 12 seconds to act. Baseline timing. Notice twice. When slow playing pocket aces, took only 4 seconds, leaned back slightly, then looked away from the pot right after betting.
Oh, okay. Much more detail.
See, that level of detail connects a specific cue, leaning back, looking away, to a specific action, slow play with aces, and a critical timing deviation. Reviewing these detailed notes after the session is essential. It helps you refine your reads and build your mental database on each opponent.
This really sounds like integrating body language reading needs to become a core part of a structured poker routine. Just like, studying GTO charts or reviewing hand histories.
It absolutely should be a fundamental pillar, not an afterthought. Your routine needs structure. Maybe pre-session, you set a clear observational goal, like tonight I'm focusing only on the timing tells of the player 2 seats to my left.
Okay.
During play, you maintain that active monitoring, always comparing current behavior against the baseline you've observed. And then post-session, you reflect. Review your notes, think about what reads worked, which didn't, and adjust your strategy going forward based on those observations.
Okay, now let's shift into the critical thinking part. The source material we looked at is incredibly clear on one major context point. This skill is almost useless online,
Virtually useless, yeah.
but absolutely priceless in live play.
That's a foundational truth you have to accept. The skill is drastically, overwhelmingly more useful in live poker simply because the online environment completely eliminates all those physical tells we've been discussing.
Right. No bodies.
No bodies, no faces, no hands fidgeting. So body language provides that critical, sometimes unbeatable edge only in live settings. And that edge gets amplified in those crucial high-pressure spots when technical skills are otherwise evenly matched, maybe, or when you reach a final table and those payout jumps are huge.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
But no matter how good you get at reading someone's tension or their fake smile, you can't just ignore the actual cards and the math, right?
Yeah.
So where does body language fit into the overall decision-making strategy? Is it primary? Secondary?
Great question. It should be viewed as a powerful complement, but it must never stand alone.
Oh,
Never.
yeah.
You should always try to confirm your behavioral reads with the objective metrics. What are the hand odds, the pot odds? What are their observable betting patterns over time?
So use both together.
Exactly. If your gut, based on a tell, is screaming fold, but the math strongly suggests a call, you need to weigh both inputs. You use the cues you pick up to adjust your strategy, maybe to help refine a really close decision. But you never, ever rely solely on a gesture or a glance to define your entire decision. That's a recipe for disaster.
Okay, solid advice. Now, what happens when our opponents know all this too? Experienced players, they know they're being watched, and they actively use deception. We have to talk about false tells, right?
We do. This is the advanced level of the game, the metagame, really. You absolutely will encounter players using false tells, sometimes called reverse tells. They will deliberately fake gestures or expressions specifically to throw you off.
Can you give us a specific common example, something people might fake often?
Oh, yeah. A very common one is the sort of instant check raise maneuver. A player might snap check instantly, projecting body language of total disinterest or weakness.
Yeah, trying to look like they missed the flop.
Exactly. Only to immediately snap raise the moment you bet. They're trying to induce a bet from you by feigning weakness. Or, alternatively, a pro might deliberately let out a loud sigh or look really stressed out before making a massive shove when they actually have the stone-cold nuts.
Right, hoping you read the fake stress as weakness.
Precisely. They want you to think they're nervous or weak.
So how do we avoid getting completely fooled by that kind of intentional acting? It sounds tricky.
It is tricky, but the defense goes back to our core principle. Long-term observation and baseline analysis. If you only look at one isolated dramatic movement, that big sigh, that quick check, you will be easily fooled by a false tell.
That makes sense.
But if you've observed that player carefully across, say, 20 or 30 hands, you have a much better sense of their true baseline behavior. A genuine sigh of stress usually looks different, feels different, maybe occurs at different timings, or it's accompanied by other non-intentional cues, like that micro-expression of fear we talked about earlier. Spotting the acting really means recognizing how it deviates from their established natural patterns.
Okay, so it always comes back to knowing their baseline. That brings us towards the end of our deep dive today. The big takeaway seems clear. It's that potent combination, strong technical skill, plus sharp observation that really maximizes your edge.
That's the formula.
But also that observational skill. It takes real patience and focus to develop.
Absolutely. This isn't some quick fix you learn overnight. It requires sustained effort, focus, and yes, a lot of observation time. But if you want to accelerate your development, structure really helps.
So for listeners who are ready to start implementing this, like right away, what are some specific drills they could commit to trying this week?
Okay, practical steps. First, try observation drills away from the table. Watch streamed poker games or televised ones, maybe with the sound off initially. Just focus on the players. Jot down the cues you notice when they're facing big decisions. What do you see?
Good idea. Low pressure.
Exactly. You can also try role-playing with friends, take turns bluffing or holding strong hands, and really force yourself to try and spot the behavioral shifts in each other.
Mm.
If you happen to record yourself playing live sometimes, video analysis can be gold. Reviewing cues in slow motion is incredibly revealing.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, the simplest drill, daily awareness. Just start paying more active attention to the gestures, expressions, posture, and even vocal timing of people in your everyday conversations. It sharpens your general sensitivity to nonverbal communication.
That's excellent advice for building that external awareness muscle.
Oh,
Okay, finally, reading body language clearly requires sharp external observation. But achieving that level of observation consistently, that seems like it requires significant internal control from the observer too.
you've hit on the unspoken truth of poker mastery, really. You absolutely need to stay mindful, patient, and emotionally balanced yourself. Why? Because your own mood, your own biases, they can completely distort how you interpret what you're seeing in others.
So if you're tilted or angry,
If you're angry or anxious or tilted, you're far more likely to misread simple uncertainty in an opponent as aggression, or maybe read their confidence as a bluff attempt when it's genuine. Your internal state clouds your external perception.
so the provocative thought here is, before you even try to spot your opponent's tell, you have to stabilize your own mental state first.
Precisely. Think about it. If staying mindful, patient, and emotionally balanced is what ensures you can interpret your opponent's behavior more reliably, what does that truly suggest about the critical importance of managing your own mental state before you even attempt to read theirs? Your foundation of emotional control. That's always your first winning move at the table.